Do y'all ever visit the big house?
The big house is my parents' house. So not much. We haven't actually been over there in a while, probably like a couple years, other than once. Like to check
the mail.
Grab some mail or something.
2 years.
But yeah, there's like some restrictions, but also threshold, like we like to call it, is like just a little bit lower in this season of life for us, with a lot going on in our own lives. So
there's a lot of trees
anyways,
there.
plus
yeah, basically like Joel said, we just learned some information just before we had to quit filming, because we were kind of put between a rock and a hard place where we had to choose between our family goals or filming, and really felt like it was in our best interest as a family to pursue our family goals.
It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Monday, April 4th. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I'm ready to get going. There's lots of Duggar news, and if you're not following the 7M stuff over on my Instagram, there's lots that's come out this over the weekend. We've had a wage claim report that came out. We had some emails that dropped that kind of showed and highlighted the control that these dancers are under, and we are still uncovering all of the mess that's going on there. So make sure you follow me over on Instagram for more on that. And on here, we're going to continue on with our Duggars expose, because today we actually have some good news. Derick Dillard passed the bar. Many of you know that Derick Dillard entered law school 4 years ago and graduated last year. He had actually taken the bar over the summer, not long after Josh's indictment, and did not pass. But he took the bar again in February, and this time we got some really good news. He is now a bar member in the state of Arkansas and can practice legally as an attorney. So according to the Supreme Court of Arkansas, the bar exam was administered on February 22nd and the 23rd of 2022, and the applicants who successfully completed the bar exam, the multi-state professional responsibility examination, completed all other requirements, and who will be certified to the Clerk of Arkansas Supreme Court for admissions as attorneys licensed to practice law in the Arkansas appear below. And Derick Dillard of Lowell, Arkansas, Derick Michael Dillard, was listed as one of those who passed the bar. So Derick is now going to be able to be an attorney. If you're wondering what kind of law Derick Dillard plans to practice, Jill and Derick actually gave us a sneak peek in this when they wrote a blog when the case against the city and the local police department was thrown out, related to the release of an investigation involving her brother, Josh Duggar. So this is what they said. The judge has made it crystal clear that the reports were illegally released. This should have never happened, and we hope that this never happens again to anyone. It is what compelled Derick to change careers and pursue law school in the first place, and we will continue to fight for victims' rights. So when I had spoken to Derick previously, he had said that his goal was to work within sort of child advocacy and make sure that children are protected. There's a number of different avenues that he could take with this, and he likely could be doing more of like family practice. He might be working as, you know, someone that does more lobbying or policy making, but his goal ultimately was to prevent further child exploitation. There was a lot of factors that contributed to the Duggars not getting paid on television while they were on, because Jim Bob was paid and then he did not pay his kids. That fact was also released by Derick and Jill Dillard. And he might also be working towards potentially maybe trying to encourage lawmakers or work with lawmakers to pass laws to potentially protect children on reality television, to ensure that labor permits are made for the kids. Fun fact, Years ago, there was an investigation done with the Department of Labor in the state of Arkansas to find out if the Duggars had ever taken out a permit for their children to be filmed on the show. And they found that there had never been a single permit issued to the Duggars for their children being on television. When the Duggars were asked why they didn't take out a permit, they said that their kids were not paid to be on the show and that it was an extension of their ministry, and so they didn't need a work permit. They also said that they were part of a family business, which is a loophole that is provided to many of reality stars when it comes to children. And companies that do reality television often will seek out families in states with looser regulations and no requirements for, permits. Another issue that is a huge factor when it comes to the Duggars is in the state of Arkansas, there's no law that states that a child that works on television would have a trust fund set up for them so that they have money for their earnings from their time on the show. So there's several states in the state around the country that have what's called Coogan Acts, which are trust funds that are set up for children that are actors or that appear on television or on film or are dancing entertainers. A part of that is that a trust fund is set up for the kids so that they have money set aside for a certain date and time in the future, whether it's 21 or 18, where they have access to the money that they earned while they were working as a child. So to give you sort of an understanding of how that works is when Kate Gosselin was on television with Kate and John Plus 8, they didn't have any sort of trust fund set up for the kids. And there was people within the state of Pennsylvania that actually sought out and worked with the state of Pennsylvania to ensure that Kate actually set aside money for her kids because the kids were not being paid at the time. For some reason, that same push was never applied to the Duggar children, but in the case of the Gosselin kids, because those trusts were set up, that is why they can actually now today pay for college and don't have to worry about certain aspects of their future. So in the case of the Duggars, there was never a trust fund set up for the kids, and there was also no permits taken out for them to work. So basically, when Derick was speaking about how Jim Bob Duggar is sort of akin to what he would consider as human trafficking, I would say I don't disagree, because the kids were effectively like indentured servants to him. They were working, they were living in his house, and they were making money for him, but never properly paid or paid by the network. TLC was able to get around this stipulation because family shows are generally only offered one specific contract. So a family would have a contract with TLC versus having individual contracts with the individuals of the show. So in the case of the Duggars, their single contract was allocated through Mad Family Inc., which was an organization that was set up by Jim Bob Duggar. All payments for the show were made to Mad Family Inc., and then he was responsible for dispersing the funds to the children. Unfortunately for Derick and Jill, they state they were never paid, and they had to hire an attorney for her to basically get minimum wage. Now, once that went through, it seems like Jim Bob sort of changed his strategy and started paying his kids, which is part of the reason why some of his boys have been able to successfully set up businesses in the housing market as well as construction companies. So he learned the hard way through his litigation with Jill that he has to actually pay a minimum wage to the kids. And a minimum wage is the minimum required under state law that someone has to be paid for their work. It goes without saying that the amount and the time and the money that they made on that show, Jill should have far been making well more than minimum wage. In fact, her wedding alone was the highest rated show ever of Counting On. Her wedding had over 4 million viewers, and sources who have knowledge of the contracts with TLC as well as with the Duggars have told me that every time there was a wedding or a baby or a pregnancy, the Duggars made more money. So sometimes on some of these clauses with the company, with TLC, they will have additional bonuses paid to people on television and on the show, that they'll get extra money if someone gets married, if they move, if they have a house, if they have a baby. That might explain why the Duggars pushed to have 19 kids. As soon as they started filming, she did not want to stop. It also might explain why Anna and Kendra kept having kids, bomb, 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 back to back to back to back. Why in one season alone, there was like 6 pregnancy announcements. You must remember that every one of those babies that was born and a part of the show, they made more money on. Those babies likely will never see a dime of the money or any residuals for their birth being public for the world to see. If the Duggar children were smart, they would sue their father or set up a wage claim within the state of Arkansas, but it appears as though they might not do that because their father still controls their every move, at least some of them. But for now, Derick is officially an attorney, and if I were Jim Bob, I would be shaking in my boots because there's only so much longer that he can keep going and have all of these different LLCs. He has 45 or more of these LLCs between all of his different kids. You don't get to have the microscope on your family like this and not expect that at some point the IRS isn't going to start looking into this. It's not uncommon for companies to have, or people like Jim Bob, who have a lot of money to open up companies, to take losses on different companies, to launder money from one to the next. I am not saying that that's what he's doing, but the fact that there are so many of these LLCs, it just seems very suspect. Not to mention, it's well known and well established that Jim Bob has an affinity for not wanting to pay taxes and likes to find ways to reduce his overall tax liability. Now, that's not uncommon again for very wealthy people, but when you continuously open up businesses that have no actual like public facing company, and if you look at his LLCs, none of them do, most of them don't, they just appear to be shell companies, you start to wonder at what point will the IRS get involved, or if the IRS already is involved. The thing is that IRS investigations can take years and they can audit taxes at any time. So I don't know if, they've been notified or tipped off, but if I were the IRS, I'd start looking into Jim Bob. If Jim Bob is going to ever go down, I think it would have to be related to financial crimes. That's just my opinion. I don't know if he ever will, but usually they say follow the money, generally. So do you think that Derick is going to implement or try to work against lobbying or creating laws, or do you think he's going to have like a practice where he tries to help children that have been exploited, or is he going to work with victims of crimes that are children like Jill? Either way, I hope that Derick has a very successful career. I'm very excited to see one of Jim Bob's actual son-in-laws obtain a higher level of education than anyone else in the family. So what are your thoughts about all of this? Do you like that there's finally a son-in-law that could take him down? Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.